In New York City, there are 300,000 Vietnam-era veterans, and 40,000 of them are addicts. Most of them began using heroin, barbiturates, and amphetamines in Vietnam, and most of them came home with less than honorable drug-related discharges. These GIs are ineligible for veterans' educational, home loan, and employment benefits. They get no long-term VA medical or psychological treatment for their addiction. They're offered only methadone, a numbing drug with which some men can function and others can't.
I went to Vietnam in September of 1969, and during the time that I was there, I went through certain experiences that led me into using drugs. One of the experiences that I recall was during a night ambush. I killed a 12-year-old kid, which was something that I couldn't handle at that time. Seeing him dead laying on the ground the next morning, it really stayed on my mind. So I started using drugs, and I kept that up until I came back to the States.
When I used to shoot dope, I didn't have fear. That was the whole thing about it. To keep myself going through the day in combat, I would get high. I would be under the influence of some type of drugs, and I wouldn't feel fear. But after coming down from the drugs, I would start feeling fear, and that's when I would go back to getting high again.
I didn't want to really be there. I was afraid. I was lonely, homesick. I wanted to be home. Most of all, afraid. I was even afraid of returning home at one time because of my addiction. I was thinking of how am I going to get my fix when I arrived to the States.
Even though I did receive the Silver Star and Bronze Stars medals for valor, I was no hero.
How were you treated?
By the military and by society, very bad.
The Veterans Administration offers the addicted vet no rehabilitation or retraining. Just a 6-week methadone detoxification program in a VA hospital or indefinite outpatient methadone maintenance. And while methadone may kill the need for heroin, it's more addictive than heroin. And the VA treats only 988 men. New York City treats 4,000 more with methadone, with 2,000 on waiting lists. But that leaves 35,000 addicted Vietnam veterans without treatment. The city's welfare department has a responsibility for providing public assistance for 6,000 Vietnam vets, many of whom are addicts. As early as 3 every morning, the vets begin lining up outside the understaffed Veterans Welfare Center on 8th Avenue. The glass doors of the center have been replaced with steel. They were destroyed early this winter by vets battering against them to get in.
Well, I tell you what, I wasn't here at 4 o'clock. I just got here about 8 o'clock.
So how come you're up at the front of the line? Are you going to try and bull your way in here?
I am. I'm going in when the crowd goes in.
Even that's not fair to your brothers online, though, is it?
Yeah. Only the strong survive. It's a dog-eat-dog world out here. You better believe it.
World in this land.
That's right. And that's no lie.
You're going to push ahead of them, huh?
Watch me. Watch me. Watch me. They made us animals, so why not act like one and be one until we get our check and come on out of there? Then we human beings then. Then we human beings again.
That was the situation more than 2 months ago. And although Robert Carroll, Director of Community Affairs for the department, promised in a statement on December 6, 1972, that within 1 month the vets would be in and out of the cold, now, 2.5 months later, the men are still freezing.
You can see right now, we standing out here in the cold. From dudes be here from like you gotta get here at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 below zero. It's like that don't make no sense, man. See, when you're on the front line of welfare, it's just like being in Vietnam. Freezing your ass off. That's all I say.
You still gotta fight.
You gotta fight.
Actually, you don't stop
because when I came down here on the 19th of last month to go upstairs to pick up my check, it was on the 3rd floor. That ain't my regular floor. When I went up there, the lady called me a nigger. I had an offer in her mouth to get my check?
I went to telephone company for jobs, and they told me you don't have enough education to go, do the job. Your rank is your score's not high enough, but my score was high enough to do 3 years in NOM, but it's not high enough to connect the line in the telephone building. If I could get me a job where I could be my own man, they make me think that they're feeling sorry for me. Give me this, give me what I need. This is like a pet, like a dog, you know, like give him, you have to be fed now, give him some food, you know?
Anybody can make people stand out on the line, you understand, and wait, you understand? But yet still, when I got my fingers blowed away in the numb, you understand, wasn't no waiting, you understand what I mean?
How do I feel about America? Well, I tell you what, this is, I was born here. You understand? I was born here. I live here. This is my home.
It ain't nothing.
I feel all right about it, but I say treat a person like they're supposed to be treated. You understand?
Nothing, man.
Like a human being.
Acting on his own, Afonso Yacano, director of the Veterans Welfare Center, invited Channel 13 to film inside. But the following day, he told us he'd spoken with Mr. Carroll, and that Carroll had told him to withdraw his invitation. When we arrived to film the next morning, Mr. Yacano met us at the door.
No.
You invited us here.
No, I did not invite you.
You invited us
You're going to
here.
be.
Excuse me, please take your hand away from the camera. You invited us down
No, I
here.
did not invite you, Mr.
You did invite
I
me.
did not.
Now, why can't we
You're
come
quite
in?
wrong. I'm sorry. Did you speak to Mr. Carroll?
You invited me.
I did not.
Now, why
I
can't
did
you
not.
come in?
I thought you
What's going on in there that we can't see? Inside the center, the vets wait and wait. The Vietnam vets, plus 10,000 from other wars, a total of 16,000, have just 55 workers in this one building to help them. They come back day after day, and if you're an addict and take your methadone, and addicted veterans must take methadone to receive welfare, you get a check every 2 weeks for $80. Veterans with drug-related discharges receive no unemployment insurance. Jobs are so hard to find that 75,000 or 25% of the Vietnam vets in New York are without them. And every veteran discharged with a history of drug abuse has special program number 384, a code for drug abuse, permanently affixed to his records. Information which is freely available to the public. Transition from war hero to junkie takes place. What are you high on right now?
I'm high on methadone.
What's methadone doing for you? Is it helping you?
Getting me high, that's all. I got hooked in Vietnam, with drugs. So then, after I came from over there, they told me, well, you have to go through some application and anything. So, I couldn't get any jobs over here. So I went to the welfare center, and they told me, if you need help, you have to do this. You have to get into a methadone program, and if you don't get into a methadone program, you won't be able to get help. And I told them, that means that I have to get hooked into a methadone when I was hooked on top of already in Vietnam. For me to get help, that means I said, well, those are the rules. So I said to myself, that's what I said to myself. That's very funny. Why should I get hooked on methadone? I would like, all I want is help.